You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
Hey, buddy, you gonna eat that sausage?
No, go past this. Past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Tell me something, my friend.
Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the role? Ladies and gentlemen! Your complete attention, if you please.
The Epic Film Guys Podcast. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another brand new episode of the Epic Film Guys Podcast. Justin is in hiding. I think that the authorities finally figured out that he really is the hobster, and they're finally tired of him stealing all the bullshit that he steals from Ned Devine's bar. So he is gone, and I've called in a couple of ringers to replace him. We are welcoming on the show for the first time ever, sponsor of the show, amazing friend of the show, just amazing dude all around. We've got Gerald from 2Ps on a podcast on the show. Gerald, how the hell are you tonight?
What's up, brother? I am great. I'm on a staycation in North Carolina. I'm at my grandmother's abode as we speak, my 81-year-old grandmother, and I'm spending some time with her, and I carved out a little niche here to be with you. I'm excited to be here, man. You know I love you. You know I love Justin, Loy Sauce, the whole thing. So thanks for inviting me, and I'm pumped to be here to talk Incredibles and whatever else we get into, man. So thanks again. I appreciate it.
Loy Sauce not joining us tonight, unfortunately. I probably let him know way too late, and you know, in terms of offering him a chance to be on the show. But I did extend the offer, but it was like 3 hours before recording time, so he probably had other commitments. So I'm sorry, Loy Sauce. But just know that we love you and we still worship you as our God of podcasting. And joining us for the first time in a while, we haven't heard his voice on the show outside of all the random clips that he pops up in EFG history and whatever else. We are thrilled to welcome once again Caleb of the Netflix and Swill podcast. Caleb, I love you.
The fucking intro that you put together for your show is legitimately like 3 minutes long.
It is.
Like, don't you ever wonder if it's a bit much? I was just listening to all of that, and I was like, okay, it's about to end. No, okay.
See, when I do the audio, though,
it's still going.
I cut in the actual intro like 45 seconds into the intro, so that whole thing doesn't play when the show starts.
I dig it, though.
Difference.
I'm always kind of headbanging a little bit to it.
See?
So.
I understand the magic of editing.
Yeah.
So, Caleb, we're absolutely thrilled. You, of course, have been on the show a number of times, famously for our Alien Covenant minisode,
or infamously, depending on how big of a Ridley Scott fan you are.
Yeah, roundly thrashed the film, which came up just the other night in
fuck you, Ridley Scott, you fucking dumb, stupid idiot.
That just came up once again during the fantasy movie draft over on Sorry Married a Movie Geek, because poor Winters just he can't understand why we hated Covenant, or even Prometheus, but Covenant especially. Yeah. Gee, fuck you, Shock Top. God damn it, that guy. But we're not here to talk about Alien Covenant tonight, gentlemen. We are here to talk about The Incredibles 2. We're also going to toss a little bit of trailer action your way in epic previews, because Gerald has a trailer that he would like to review, a film that I didn't even know existed until 20 minutes ago. And I think we'll talk just a little bit in the first segment here about kind of how we feel about the first Incredibles film before we delve into a full discussion on the second film. Okay, so before we get there, though, there's something we do every single week on the show. I'm, of course, talking about What Are You Drinking?
I'm back! Puke and rally! Woo! Give me a beer!
And Gerald, this is your first time around.
Yeah, which is fucked up. So,
man, I gotta. What have you got putting into your puss hole face?
My face hole.
Yes.
Yeah. So look, I gotta preface
look
this.
on Caleb's face.
Caleb knows. I gotta preface this. I'm at my grandma's house. Okay. I'm susceptible to what she has, bro. So, and not only I'm going to show you the beer on the can, which of course the audio folks I'll still have to tell you, but also this expired in March of 2018.
Nice.
And I'm legit drinking it.
It's poison.
It is.
God damn.
So you see it before I tell everyone. So it is Bud Light that expired 3 months ago.
Well, by now it might have fermented a bit to have some alcohol in it.
Crispy as fuck, bro. Like I said, it's what Granny had in the fridge. You know what I mean? So I'm popping it down there.
I was really hoping he was going to pull out like a jug of fucking moonshine, like Granny was the secret distiller.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, we were in a tow truck an hour ago just trying to make it to the recording. So this is what she had. So here it is. Bud Light. Dilly dilly.
Yeah, man, you took quite the journey to get here tonight. So we really do appreciate you being here. Thank you very much, because your grandmother's car broke down.
Yeah, it wouldn't start, man. We were out shopping and we got back in her car and it wouldn't start, man. So
probably because it was so full of moonshine. I'm just going to ride this Granny's a moonshiner hard. And she's not even sharing the good stuff with you. She's like, here, drink this beer. I think it's still good.
Yeah, it's definitely not, but I'm drinking it. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to pitch it over to you, Caleb. And I must ask what thou hast guzzling into thy gullet this eve.
I'm drinking lemon lime Gatorade. I have to be up for work at 4 a.m, jackass.
I know, but I still wanted to ask you, like a pro. But yeah, Caleb works 12-hour days, so he is graciously setting aside some of his time to be here with us tonight.
60-hour week.
Jesus God.
It's really awesome.
You need to share some of those hours with Dan, brother. We got to get him some hours.
I didn't do anything with phallic objects last night.
That guy. Dan, who refuses to say the word sucked and dick in a sentence, so I can't cut it together into a sentence probably for the soundboard.
I mean, I would just get Dan a job where I work, but he would quit after like a day.
Then he'd have to work outdoors.
Yeah.
Is there like a cushy office job you can get him at your company?
Well,
I mean, maybe.
I offered to get him a job at my place too, but I'm in the restaurant business, and he said he couldn't do that either.
Yeah,
he said he didn't want to.
You don't want Dan to work with
He
people.
can. He won't.
Yeah.
We had this discussion.
To be happy.
We have a Facebook group chat. We had this discussion before where Caleb and I were like, "But Dan, any job is better than no job," and he's like, "No."
Not true.
Yeah. He's like, no, I'm sure my dream job's right around the corner. Fuck you, you fucking idiot.
I did nothing today, and it was everything I thought it could be.
Dan, we do love you.
Oh, I love Dan. He's
okay.
My dream guy. I love that guy.
He's okay. All right, well,
rude.
Gentlemen, I am drinking a beer from a brewery sponsored by the patron saint of the Epic Film Guys podcast, the Hobster. That's from Lord Hobo Brewing. I reached out to them on Twitter once upon a time, asking them if the Hobster could be their official sponsor. They did not respond. This is their Virtuoso New England style hazy double IPA. Now, most of the stuff that I have had that's like you can purchase in a store in terms of a New England style beer, most of it isn't really up to par. This, however, is absolutely fantastic. I was really expecting great things because it's Lord Hobster. Sorry, Hobo. We'll stick with Lord Hobster. But it's cloudy as all hell. It's got a beautiful hop aroma on the top of it, a little bit of pine, not a lot of citrus. And then it's just nice and clean, easy drinking, and just a good solid mouthfeel. So yeah, really, really fantastic beer. Justin would actually probably enjoy this beer. So Justin, if you can find this, get it.
The dick that I sucked last night has a good mouthfeel.
That's what it said about you. Can I just say real quick, Nick, that Caleb came on my show a couple months ago, and we did top 5 love ballads of the 1980s, and this guy fucking killed it, bro. He brought
all of them?
Power ballads galore,
I
and it was glorious.
Nothing less.
Oh, it's fucking great. It was like Foreigner and fucking. He wanted to bring what was the Mr. Big?
Yeah, but I found out that it was 91.
Yeah, 91. Yeah,
dude, that song has led to a lot of finger blasting in my day.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. And he's coming back in a couple weeks. We're going to do hip hop. You're coming, Caleb, right?
Yep.
We're going to do 90s hip hop.
Gerald keeps messaging me and asking me like, because he's got all these different topics for all these top fives.
You're not
and
in
stuff.
anything, yeah.
And he sends it to me. He's like, "Hey, how are you into like '90s boy bands?" And I'm like, "No." And then he'll send me a message and be like, "Are you into this or this or this?" And I think there's something I earmarked, but it's not like it's way down on your list though.
You're gonna be you were mildly interested in '90s courtroom films that take place in a courtroom.
Yeah, but then they were just '90s courtroom films.
But I know, right? But what I'm definitely gonna have you on for is Tarantino characters. Top 5 Tarantino.
That's what it was. Tarantino characters. See,
yeah, so you're in that one.
The number one courtroom film of the '90s is, of course, Judge Dredd, because he has that whole scene where he gets judged and then he gets banished to the wasteland.
But I don't know, man. Off the top of my head, mine's A Few Good Men.
Yeah, but Judge Dredd. I am
What are you doing, Judge Hershey?
Waiting for backup.
It's here.
I love that movie. I don't give a fuck who knows it.
It's so good.
Too good.
Oh my god. But yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But Gerald is, of course, like I said, he's been one of the biggest fans of and one of the biggest friends of the show for the longest time. So we're thrilled to actually finally have you on microphone with us, in spite of all of the dramatics that you had to go to get with us tonight. And Caleb, you've been a great friend of the show since the start as well. We really, really appreciate all your support, your sponsorship as well. And again, you're here sacrificing sleep that I know you desperately need to be working outside with chainsaws. If I get a picture in the Facebook group chat tomorrow of you missing 3 fingers, I'm just going to quietly close the chat and walk away.
Hopefully I lost all of the finger meat that I'm going to lose when I fucking hacked off a big chunk of my right middle finger being a dumbass.
So. I hope so. So hopefully you'll get enough sleep to not impair your judgment while you're out cutting trees.
Yeah.
It's
okay because we're actually spraying right now, and I can just kind of mentally check out.
Well, gentlemen, why don't we, before we jump into segment 2, before we jump into our feature review for the week, which we're going to talk about Incredibles 2, I want to go around the horn here, and I just want to talk briefly or whatever about the original film, which came out, again, 14 years ago. This is hallowed sacred ground by the sauce of Loy, our god of podcasting himself.
Loy sauce.
That guy. This is a 10 out of 10 rated film for Loy sauce, so every single time we bash or shit on anything about it, we're personally insulting the sauce.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, it's a piece of shit. Anybody who likes it's an idiot.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if you want me to go first. I agree with him. I gave it a 10 out of 10 as well.
Wow.
Back in 2010, I was writing for a movie blog called Episodes and Reels, and I actually did a top 10 superhero movies, and that's everything from the comic book genre, the old Superman films with Christopher Reeve, anything that would fall in that category, which the MCU was getting started up at that time. And The Incredibles was on my list at number 4 as the number 4 greatest superhero movie of all time.
Wow.
And I would still probably stand by it being in the top 5, even after all the MCU stuff that's come out since. I think it's flawless. I mean, it's an amazing picture. There's no way that Incredibles 2 was going to live up to that. And I knew that going in, which is why there was no disappointment for me when it comes to Incredibles 2. But I agree with Loy Sauce. I mean, it was just a spectacular movie from beginning to end. Nothing wrong with it. Just perfect. Just the right amount of character development and building the story, because of course it was a new story then, so we're learning the story. And action. It was action packed. It was great for kids. It was great for adults. And it's so hard to marry that line of, can a 40-year-old enjoy it as much as a 10-year-old? And The Incredibles, along with films like Monsters, Inc., really did that. No matter how old you were, you can enjoy it from beginning to end. And
yeah, Pixar seems to
with Loy Sauce
understand
on the original, man. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, Pixar seems to understand that, I think, better than a lot of other studios do. Where, if you're going to develop, especially if you're going to have a kid's film that, you're going to want to actually go to, you have to skew, like, there has to be parts of it that will actually appeal to adults as well. I think Pixar does that really, really well.
Yeah, I agree.
And Wow, shit. So a 10 out of 10 from you. Well, Caleb, I'm going to throw it over to you. What are your thoughts on the original film?
I don't know if I would necessarily say 10 out of 10. Like, there's very few films that can reach that mark for me. Like
Judge Dredd, 1985.
Yeah, like The Thing is a 10 out of 10 film. Like,
God, The Thing is
original
good.
Alien is probably a 10 out of 10 film. Like, it's shit that I can't think of a way that it could possibly be better. But the thing that really defines the first Incredibles to me is the villain. Syndrome is such a great villain. He's relatable. Like, everybody has felt that kind of insecurity that kind of pushes them from the person that they originally wanted to be. Only in Syndrome, it's blown to, comic
extreme
book level proportions. Yeah. But, so Syndrome is really, really neat. I like his motivations a lot as a villain. Aside from that, the movie does a good job of showing a complex family dynamic. Like, everybody in the family kind of has their own wants and needs, and they're all fully fleshed out. And it's not like, hey, here's like stand-in son character who doesn't fucking matter at all. Right. Like, they each have their own like little personality and their own thing that they bring to this complex family dynamic. So the way that was all handled was very, very good.
I agree. I think what Disney, you mentioned Pixar. I think what Disney Pixar, in my opinion, and I don't know if this would go beyond what Loisaw said, but Incredibles is one of a handful of films I would give 10 out of 10 to. And I know that score gets thrown around, and movie critics, so to speak, are hard pressed to do that. But I could Toy Story, the original. I mean, come on. Come on. That's the original Pixar. WALL-E, I think, is fucking amazing. Monsters Inc.
I love WALL-E.
WALL-E's so good.
Yeah, Monsters Inc. and Incredibles. So those four films I would easily give a 10 score to. I just think Pixar, like you said, Nick, has really captured what it takes to get parents to want to drag their kids to a theater experience, which is usually a fucking nightmare, right? But they've made it to where it's actually an experience that you want to go through. I mean, this past Saturday, I just took my kid to see Incredibles 2. He's 4 years old, and I'm like, at the Alamo Draft House, no less, which they don't want you making noise
even when
in there.
Justin's not fucking here, I can't get away from talking about the fucking Alamo Draft House.
No, he knows I'm a big proponent of it. It just opened in my hometown. But anyway, the point is, Pixar has been able to create an environment where it does not matter. It's like the Legos, right? Like, you buy Legos and it says from age 1 to 99 you can enjoy it, or 0 to 99. I feel like Pixar has been able to do that, even with Coco a couple of years ago.
I was going to ask if you had seen Coco yet.
Yeah,
I
loved it.
I just watched it recently and I cried twice, and then I bought it on Blu-ray. And it came with this. It came with this little pin.
Yeah, great film. Great film. Love it.
I still haven't seen Coco, sadly, but no one should be really shocked that I haven't seen a movie. I think Incredibles 2, I really like it. It's probably about an 8 out of 10 for me. It's a really, really good film. I hadn't seen it. I know I watched it when it first came out, sometime back around the time it first came out, but I had not seen this film in probably at least a decade.
So the original Incredibles, you give an 8 out of 10.
The original, yeah, the original.
Okay, all right, I got you. Okay.
So, like, I mean, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. I really, really love the film. I love Jason Lee as Syndrome, and I think Syndrome's a great villain. I just wish that his motivation was more than Mr. Incredible was a dick to me when I was a kid, and then he just carries that grudge forward like forever. Well, I just wish there was more to it.
Like, his whole like identity when he was in his formative years was that he was going to grow up and be a big hero too.
Yeah.
And he was denied that, and like he never accepted that that's just the reality of life. Not everybody gets to be special and change the course of the world. So.
Yeah. And truth be told, Incredibles 2, one of the things that was lacking was the villain.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about so much to do with Incredibles 2.
So I did love Syndrome. I thought he was kind of silly and kind of a goof. Jason Lee did it.
Jason Lee's voice performance is what really takes that villain over the top for me. Like, it really elevates him to that kind of status that he needs to be at. I think, well, we'll talk about this again when we get into Incredibles 2, but I think that may be one of the things that hurts the screenslaver.
Yeah.
I really think that might be one of the things that really hurts it, because it doesn't really have that same kind of caliber thrust behind it as everything else is. But I love the voice cast in the original film. The entire voice cast returns, except for there's a different kid that voices Dash.
Right,
but,
yeah.
You know, the entire voice cast returns in the second film, which is absolutely fantastic. And I think still, we'll run around the horn here really quick before we jump into our first break here. Favorite characters from the first film. Gerald, we'll start with you.
Oh, shit. Of course you start with me.
Yeah, motherfucker.
I mean, you mentioned Syndrome. I do love him a lot, especially Jason Lee as the voice there. I mean, my favorite kind of character in the Incredibles family, and it would also stay true to the Incredibles, the original, is Violet. I love that character of kind of the teen angst. Like, you know, no matter what it is, it's kind of like you're irritated that you have to do it because the teen angst is there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God, I have these superpowers. I can save my family. Do I have to do this? This is boring. And, you know, I feel like Violet really kind of captured that. And, of course, it rolled over into the sequel. I have a teenage daughter who's 16, and I kind of see that in her as well. And I make jokes about her teen angst just today, actually. So I love Violet, and I feel like she's kind of a little bit of a kind of trying to figure out who she is. You know, Dash is still really young, and obviously Jack's a baby. So she's kind of in that weird, kind of on the fence, kind of trying to figure out what she wants to do. And I don't know, I think she's really cool. Kind of like a goth chick that turns into a superhero and doesn't really like her family, but then kind of wants to be part of the family. And, you know, it's kind of a weird dynamic. If you have teenage girls, anybody listening, you'll know what I'm talking about. So,
yeah.
Again, I feel like Pixar was able to kind of capture that dynamic a little bit there.
I love the sibling rivalry between Violet and Dash.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts of the first film, because that, like, a lot of the film, it really does a lot, and it really takes its time to invest you in the characters, especially the family. And I really love the brother sister kind of dynamic that Violet and Dash have, because, like, you could totally, like, buy where she's a little bit older, she's a teenager, and he's still a kid, and he's just gratingly annoying on her, like she like legitimately probably just wants to just cave his head in every time he does anything. And you know, if you have a brother or a sister that's you know, younger than you or whatever, you probably at least relate to that somewhat, where they got on your nerves when you were younger and everything like that. That's probably one of my favorite aspects of the original film. And
yeah, I agree.
Caleb, what about you? Favorite character in the first one?
Gerald gave the correct answer. Violet's the best.
Yeah. Thank you, Caleb. We do love each other.
I do have to say, though, that Elastigirl has the ass.
Oh, she most certainly has the ass.
No argument here, brother.
Yeah, she most certainly has the ass. I will throw love for Violet. I also love Violet, but I gotta go with Edna, man. I gotta go with Edna Mode. She's so ridiculous and over the top, but she's legitimately perfect. She's probably, like, that whole sequence at her house is probably one of my favorite aspects of the first film.
She just fits into the world of the movie perfectly.
Yeah. She's absolutely amazing. So, all right. So I think we all kind of have an idea of where we're coming at to discuss The Incredibles 2. So let's go ahead and we're going to run into a quick break, run some EFG history for you guys. And then when we come back, we're going to get into our feature review of The Incredibles 2. We'll be right back. This week in epic film history. I am back, and we are here with a jam-packed, fun-filled, super amazing, awesome show that is going to absolutely knock your fucking socks off and push them up your ass. I'm Epic Film Guy Nick. How the hell are you?
Hey, you know, I was thinking, I'd like to drink with Randy Quaid. Isn't that one guy he plays Eddie from the National Lampoons? I like him. He seems like the kind of guy I could get used to hanging out with. You know, he's got... Hey, you look back to the original, isn't that movie National Lampoon something? Come on. Hey, he's got a daughter, and he's got a son who likes to look at porno, and this guy is so dumb he doesn't even know the difference of what's going on. Hey, I'd like to have a good couple of drinks with him, and I'm sure he'd enjoy a nice case of PBR. Maybe even worse than that, maybe even some Keystone Light. That's even cheaper than PBR if you go to a shittier bar. I want to watch Jaws tonight. I need to watch Jaws.
Well, I think if you're going to watch Jaws, you should actually have some of that Narragansett ale.
You know what's funny? I'm looking over to the left here, and I'm seeing that this guy that I might possibly live with, the guy you like to talk to quite a bit, has a can of retro Narragansett beer on his shelf. I'm not sure if it's real or not, but it surely looks like it was at some point. So yeah, I'm all about drinking that and watching some Jaws.
I am very, very upset with a sad, deep heart that's falling and breaking apart to have to report that we posted on the page yesterday, ladies and gentlemen.
What? I'm very sad to report with the falling apart and breaking apart. Like, what the fuck?
Breaky heart. My achy breaky heart. It is with deep
Listen,
sadness.
you're not allowed to
that
sing unless you act like the Hobster.
It is
whatever the
a
fuck you
deep-
call him.
I feel like I'm all alone here talking to myself. Hello? Hello? Is anyone out there? Do I have my own podcast now? They like to call me the Hopester. I don't even know what that means, but I enjoy all of you guys listening to me talk. This is great. I tell you, this is great.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us on the Epic Film Guys podcast. It's time for feature review time. And gentlemen, we are talking, of course, about The Incredibles 2, 14 years in the making. Brad Bird resisted making a sequel to this movie for a long time because he wanted the sequel, he wanted the story to be just right. He wanted everything to be just right about the film. Who can drop a quick synopsis on me right now?
He should have waited longer.
That's our review, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you and good night.
Well, I mean, a quick synopsis would be, if I was describing it to someone, is that you have this, quote, incredible family. Obviously, they've all discovered their superpowers. They're all trying to work cohesively together as a super family. But of course, the supers aren't technically legal yet, as we were left to know at the end of the first film. And it picks up right where the first one leaves off, which I think is really cool. I guess we'll get into specifics later, but I didn't like the cliffhanger of the Underminer. Like, where did he go? They never caught him. We never saw him again after the opening sequence, which I thought was kind of weird. But, you know, it kind of builds a cool, in my opinion, setup to where it's like you have the stay-at-home parent, which in this case happens to be the man, the dad, which for 2018, of course it is, and I'm okay with that. And then you have Elastigirl, who's the super that's out there fighting crime. And you still get to see that element as well. So it was really cool because it kind of took two different directions and put them in the same movie. And the different kind of challenges and how you kind of have to be a superhero if you're a parent at home as well. And we had to see that obviously with Mr. Incredible when he was at home with the kids. And then you have Elastigirl out there kicking ass and taking names in the real world as a super. So that's kind of the generic synopsis, I would say, of Incredibles 2, and it kind of picks up the hijinks left off in the first one.
Would you
And
say that
I thought it was a lot of fun.
hijinks ensue?
I would say that, especially on this show. Hijinks ensue.
Did you guys... Now, when I saw this film, it was packaged with a short film called Bow that let it off.
I like that a lot.
Bow was way better than Incredibles 2.
Bow was pretty good.
Bow was pretty damn good. I really did enjoy that.
It's about a little old lady who makes a dumpling, and then it turns into a real live boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the first film. I really, really do. But no one likes the first film more than the god of podcasting, ladies and gentlemen, our very own A1 Loy Steak Sauce Choss Moss Goss.
Loy sauce.
We just say random nonsense words to announce him until I push the button. I'm going to give you guys his rating before we discuss any of the film. 5 out of 10.
Really?
5. I pressed
I
him.
feel
I wish
like-
that I could feel that strongly about things.
Yeah. I'm gonna.
Or I guess that unstrongly, because that's exactly in the middle.
Yeah, that's dead in the. But he rates the first film a 10 out of 10. It was literally life changing for him. It was the film that made him want to be a part of the movie business, as he said to me earlier tonight. So obviously, the first film definitely holds a special place in his heart.
Is he a part of the movie business? He works in a theater.
Not tech, maybe, I don't know. Regardless, I mean, he has aspirations. He would love to be out in Hollywood and doing stuff like that, obviously. But life is what it is and whatnot. But I am not going to be as cruel to the film as Loy Sauce is. I don't hold the original in that much regard, but I don't disagree with him that this film has some major problems. But Gerald,
Oh yeah, for sure.
you said to me earlier.
I mean, but was it a good time at the movies?
Yeah,
Was it a traditional Pixar film?
loved this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to jump out here first, and I want you to give us the good stuff. Give us something that you loved. Give us a few things maybe that you loved about the film before. I mean, I'm going to shit on parts of it, but we'll be nice for now.
And I would probably agree with a lot of that stuff. We already mentioned kind of the lack of the villain in this film, which I agree with.
Yeah, there's
wholeheartedly,
a huge
and I will
discussion
definitely
to be had
accept
there.
that bashing.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about Loy Sauce, and I love that dude. I mean, like I said, we're eye to eye on almost everything that I hear him say on this show.
Sound check.
We already did that.
But, he mentioned that on Facebook that he was disappointed after seeing it. And I'll just read real quick because this kind of sums up how I feel about the film. And I knew I was coming on the show, so maybe I should have held this. But anyway, I just said I respectfully disagree. In my opinion, it was a fun continuation of the characters we grew to love in the original. They were not afraid to put the ladies in the front seat during this installment, but also begged the question, who is the bigger hero, the super on the job or the stay-at-home parent? While I did not like it as much as the original, I'm still going to give it a solid B+, which equates to roughly a 7 out of 10. So like I told you, the original was a 10 out of 10 for me. I didn't think it was anywhere close to the original, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that I didn't have a blast watching it. I went with my whole family. Everybody loved it. It's just a good time. I mean, there's some things as a movie critic, if you want to call ourselves that we can pick apart, which I'm sure we're going to do.
Oh, we will.
But a movie going experience. I mean, that was a good time, man. These are characters that we knew. There was no setup. We didn't have to go through any setup. It picked up right where it left off. The Underminer at the end of the first one, and he's right there in the beginning of the second one. Even the opening
Underminer.
even the opening sequence was the same. And my daughter, who's 16, who's basically Violet, made a comment that the beginning of Incredibles 2 and the ending of Incredibles 2 ended the same way the first one started and ended. So it's really trying to be itself with different kind of things going on during the 2-hour time frame. So it had the same kind of architecture as the first film.
Definitely.
And I can absolutely understand why someone that gave the original a 10 out of 10 would have been, quote, disappointed with this film. But I knew there's no way it's going to be as good or better than the original. Like, I knew that. I mean, you would have had to. I don't even know what they would have had to do for me to consider this as good as the original. It was the same thing when Monsters University came out. I mean, Monsters Inc. is a 10 out of 10 for me. So you can't top that. And I knew that going in, and I wasn't expecting them to blow me away in that respect. So I had a good time at the movies. My whole family enjoyed it. I had my 4-year-old there. I had my 16-year-old there. Me and my wife enjoyed it. And I just feel like it's a wee bit unfair to pick it apart to the extent to where you say you did not enjoy it, because I feel like if you like the original, you'll like this movie, in my opinion.
Here's a question that I have for both of you guys. Was it too long? Was 14 years too long between...
Oh, I thought you meant the
between
duration.
the original film and this film? Because this thing, again, Brad Bird didn't want to make this film unless it was, quote, perfect. Was it perfect? Like, did
No.
he get there? Or,
I mean,
was it too long? Like, should this film have been made 10 years ago, and then maybe, you know, some of those comparisons, like maybe have we had, I guess my question, it's kind of almost a Star Wars type question. Have we had 14 years to build up that first film in our minds so much that when this second film comes out, there's no way, it's kind of like you said, there's no way that it could possibly live up to the first film. If it had come out closer to that first film, would that be different, do you think?
I think that's fine. Like, I don't think the weight, like, between the two movies is the issue, really. I mean, I guess you could say that, but, like, even, like, you mentioned Star Wars, like, Star Wars wasn't that good either, so, like...
Fair.
Fucking
Fair.
People who are, like, hyper fans of it, of course, are going to build up that hype, but that can be said about anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Very true. Very true.
There's the Prometheus apologists out there who are just... like diehard fans of everything that has a fucking xenomorph in it. So,
you know, the Incredibles family, from Mr. Incredible on down to Jack, you just fall in love with those characters. So, you know, any excuse to see those characters again on the big screen, I was excited about. And I'm sure Loisos was as well. But I didn't go into it expecting like, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest Pixar film ever made. I just thought it was going to be a chance to see these characters again in a different, you know, fighting different villains and in different scenarios and different action sequences. And, you know, we got the cool little storyline with Violet and her, quote, boyfriend that she's kind of courting throughout the film. And, you know, we saw Edna again, even though it was a brief moment. But honestly, unless you factor in in my opinion, lack of a villain of worth in this movie, I thought it was great. I mean, I wish the villain had been a little more substantial and a little more, I don't want to use the word sinister because obviously it's a Pixar movie, but a little more formidable, if you will. Aside from that, I thought it was great. Like I said, 7 out of 10. I thought it was just a fun time at the movies, man. And I really enjoyed it.
Can I talk about problems that I have with this movie?
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
So as Gerald mentioned a little bit earlier, like, the thing with the Underminer just happens in the beginning, and then he just goes away forever for the entire movie. So it just, like, lets their failure hang for the entire duration of the movie, and it's like, whatever happened to that one guy?
Where is he? Right?
The movie spends way too much time trying to use Jack as a comedic vehicle.
Yeah,
to like
Jack
carry the dead weight of like the heavier parts of the movie that aren't funny. As soon as the rich guy's sister walked out on screen, I leaned over to Vanessa and I was like, "Oh, she's the bad guy."
I mean, I will agree with you that my daughter and I did the exact same thing. Actually, we thought and is this spoiler filled or no?
Oh, so of course, yeah.
Okay. My daughter and I thought the same thing, Caleb, but we thought the brother and the sister went it together. But we said early.
I didn't. I was like, she's the one. She's the bad person.
We said early on as well.
Kill the criminal.
We're like, okay, they're setting up these scenarios so the heroes can save people. So we kind of had that. But again, I mean, if you're 4 or 5, you're not gonna you're not gonna guess that. You're not gonna think that.
That might be your adult brain kind of messing with you a little bit. Just because they cast Bob Odenkirk as Winston Dever, who I love. Bob Odenkirk is a goddamn treasure. And
he's great.
You kind of expect like something, like just because it's Bob Odenkirk and, you know, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, you just almost expect there to be something more like to a sinister kind of underlayer, or like he's going to take some kind of turn or something. At least I was like, I kind of had that feeling like, I knew it was one of the two of them, but I was kind of like, there's no way they're going to make it as obvious to be the Bob Odenkirk character, right? Like, that's not actually going to happen, right? And it didn't. Of course, Catherine Keener voices Evelyn. She, of course, was the mom in Get Out. So
you see what they did here too, which I don't know if it was intentional or not, based on our current climate. But what they did is they made the two formidable people women. You know, it was Elastigirl versus Evelyn. Really, I mean, in terms of.
Which I think was great, and I don't think anybody's going to find fault with Elastigirl taking center stage here.
Hold on a minute.
Or Caleb will.
Well, maybe not.
No, I liked it. It's just, it seems like the movie tried too hard to flip the gender dynamic on its head. Like, it feels like pandering, almost. Because it's like, hey, look, the dad's having a really hard time figuring out what the mom went through for all these years, and now the mom's going to go out and be the breadwinner and like have her time in the sun, which like that's all great, but it just seems like they were like, hey, you see this cool thing we're doing? Do you get it? Do you get it yet? Do you get that we're progressive?
It's a Disney
Please
movie. I
notice
expect
that
them to deliver their
being
thematic.
progressive.
Yeah, I expect Disney to deliver their thematic developments with a sledgehammer and not like a little mallet. Like,
Right.
If you've watched any of the recent Star Wars films, it's exactly the same way. It's like, hey, like the whole robot in Solo, the whole robot rights thing or whatever. Like, holy shit,
Yeah.
over the top. Like, it's a little bit overcooked.
But then again, like at the same time, it is a kids movie, so like,
yeah,
if part of your goal for the film is to teach that like women can do the things that men can do, and you know, like both parents need to be active in the household and things like that, like you kind of have to do that in simple terms. So like, I can't really fault it for that. It's just from my perspective, it's like, man, they're really just pushing this.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Let me ask you this. This is a hypothetical, which I feel like the film was kind of posing this question kind of, you know, subconsciously. So, Nick, I know you have kids, but would you guys have rather been in the scenario where Elastigirl was the superhero trying to save that train, or would you rather have been Mr. Incredible watching those kids at home trying to get the baby to sleep? Which scenario would you rather be in? I mean,
I've been the stay-at-home dad. I've done it.
Yeah,
I've been
it's not easy, bro.
It's not easy. I definitely.
That's an easy question for me. I would rather be Elastigirl because I don't want to have children.
But there's probably a subconscious reason for that, though. I mean, my wife leaves me alone now with our 4-year-old if she's doing something for work or if she's out with her friends, and I'm literally checking my watch every 30 minutes because of my kids hanging off the fucking stairwell. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not an easy thing. I mean, it is a hard thing to do.
Whenever my fiance asks me to water her plants, I act like it's a huge burden.
Shout out to Vanessa. But
hi, honey.
I like I said, I've done the stay-at-home dad thing. I thought, and I didn't mind that they played that whole thing up for comedic effect. Like, he was just like bafflingly lost, and then he kind of picks it up, and then he's at first he's complaining about helping Dash with his math because of course they're talking about Common Core or whatever, and then he picks it up and he figures it out, and you know, then he's able to kind of try to help Violet with the whole issue. I thought that was really funny that they erased like the kid's memory from ever having known her. I thought that was funny. I really loved that because
that was interesting. Yeah,
that was like a hilarious thing to try to resolve in the film.
That was kind of another moment in the film that disappointed me, though. Whenever like Mr. Incredible and Violet are talking, and she's like, "You're not a good dad. You're super." I was like, God damn it, you were supposed to say he's incredible.
Incredible. I was actually thinking she was going to say that as well. You know, one of the funniest, one of the biggest laugh out loud moments in this movie for me, and I laughed a few times, but the laugh out loud moment was when they were in the restaurant and he was waiting on them. The kid
oh my
that was
God,
into Violet.
That was hilarious. Yeah.
And she looked over for the first time and he was like, "What can I get you guys?" And she saw it was him and spit her drink out. Me and my daughter just both bursted out laughing. That was a great moment.
Yeah,
that was, see that coming.
That was really, really awesome. And they even come back to it later when she's like, I wasn't the girl with the water.
Right.
Now, my favorite was when she's crying because like he stood her up for her date because his memory got wiped. And like you just see, because she turns invisible, you just see her t-shirt float over to the fridge and then ice cream float out of the fridge and then like sobbing going back upstairs.
Yeah, that was good too.
Yeah, that was really, really nice. And I want to talk about it because I think, and Caleb mentioned this, Loy Sauce I know also agrees because I had a chance to talk to him pretty thoroughly before we recorded the show tonight. Jack. And we saw the trailers. We knew that there were going to be funny Jack moments in the film. I personally thought the fight against the squirrel was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
The
raccoon.
Yeah.
I loved it. I absolutely loved that. But then they just kept it going. they just like kept trying to make every few minutes going back to Jack's got this ridiculous power and making it this whole crazy thing. And then Edna's whole subplot, like Edna comes back in the film, which was great to see Edna, but then her whole subplot is again dealing with his powers. Like they constantly just kind of kept going back to it as a crutch. Like the way that the plot resolves itself in the end is, I referred to it when I was talking to Loisos as Jack Ex Machina, because he just randomly like happens to just randomly power himself into, like, I think he knocks a couple of the glasses off or whatever, the guys with the glasses or whatever.
Yeah, but, like whatever power he needs in the moment just manifests itself.
I think one of you guys mentioned it earlier for comedic effect, and I feel like that had a lot to do with it, but at the same time, I feel like they used that element of comedy to also illustrate his powers, because we're learning new powers that he had throughout this whole movie, because you got to remember, it was just the last 30 seconds or so of the first one where we really saw what Jack could do, which was a few things, while Syndrome
we only see in the first film that he turns into like the little demon baby or gremlin baby or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. So we had a real quick taste of it, and then the movie ends, and then 14 years later, we're watching this. Now, there was a really cool short, I don't know if you guys know, called Jack Attack that Pixar did that you can get on the Pixar Shorts, which is a Blu-ray that's available. I think it's Volume 2. That's really cool. That kind of explores his different powers and stuff that he does with it. The short's really cool because it shows us what happens while the Incredibles are fighting in the first one. Because you remember Kari is babysitting Jack.
Oh yeah.
And then Syndrome shows up to relieve her. So all that, everything that's happening while we don't see, which is off camera, is what the short is. So it's really cool. But if you haven't seen that short, you wouldn't have any idea. So I don't know. I'm with you, Nick. I thought it was hilarious. It was the theater that I was in. The people were laughing. Everybody was really enjoying those scenes. And we were in the Disney store locally here, and they actually have 2 puppets that you can wear on your hand to fight each other. One of them's Jack, and one of them's a raccoon. So they're definitely,
because of course that's a thing,
buying into that whole scenario.
Yeah, that was great. I loved Jack and the raccoon, but I just think that the longer that the film continued to try to rely on that for comedic effect, the less funny it got, to where it kind of started to weigh the film down toward the back half of it.
I mean, it's kind of like a microcosm of what's going on with all of the Star Wars movies. It's like, hey, you know what people really like? Star Wars. Let's give people all the Star Wars that they can possibly handle. So it's like, hey, Jack's really cute and funny. Why don't we just put him in every fucking scene in the movie and take the focus away from what's actually happening?
Well, and it also takes the focus away from, this is another point that Loisos actually made, it kind of, especially Violet to some degree, but Dash especially, you don't get a whole lot of Dash in this movie. You get the one scene of him exploring the house with the remote. I loved that. That was cute. And then he's doing his math for like 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what maybe a silver lining would be for Jack is if Pixar decides to revisit it in the future, because he's like a super, right? I mean, he's doing weird shit. He's going to other dimensions. I mean, and I mean, who knows? But if they decided to do an Incredibles 3 or some kind of installment.
I mean, if Brad Bird's going to do one, they're going to do one, because this film made like $180 million this weekend.
Exactly. But you see what I mean? They could really kind of hone in on Jack as the central figure when he's of age, or however many years you want to make him. And these powers that he have are so crazy from anything that we're used to from a typical superhero. Well, so that would be cool, whenever that happens. That would be cool, I would think.
To be completely honest, I would rather see a Jack solo movie than a fucking Boba Fett movie.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Jack solo movie would be 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So like I said, I think
Wars.
This film, I think the voice acting in this film is fantastic. I think that the artwork and the animation in this film is absolutely breathtaking. Especially, I watched the first film the night before I went to see this.
Same here,
and especially Loisos and I were talking again, and the animation, I think, in the first film, as much as I really, really like the first film, even Loisos, who again worships it, the animation in the first film is kind of dated. It's very blocky and very clunky, especially in some parts. But in this film, it's just magnificent. I thought this film was absolutely gorgeous. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
I agree. I mean, even the opening, traditional Disney opening with Cinderella's castle, you know, and they do before every movie with Tinkerbell coming over the castle.
Yep.
Even that, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, this is specific to Incredibles. This is really cool. But I agree with you. I mean, it was fucking, from an animation standpoint, it was fucking flawless. I mean,
yeah,
I can't imagine. I can see why it took 14 years. I mean, it was fucking beautiful. You know, it was perfect.
They weren't
so
drawing
it
for 14 years, Gerald.
That's right. But no, I agree with you. I thought it was really, really beautiful to look at, no doubt.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think villain wise, and I want to dial into the villain just a little bit more here, just because the screenslaver, like, I kind of see what they were trying to go for, and I really actually liked this villain's motivation. So when you get out in front of it, what's her motivation? Her parents died because they relied on superheroes. So she has just got this natural inclination and just dislikes. I love that as a motivation. But then the screenslaver is just like this kind of voiceless, faceless character that you don't know anything about. And then the rest of the pizza delivery kid or whatever. Right. You never really get a chance to... Syndrome, at the very least, in the first film, Syndrome, you get to spend a lot of time, a lot of different scenes with him as Jason Lee is chewing scenery as that villain. And in the second film, you don't get that. And that's where I think you were talking about it earlier, Gerald, that sense of menace is kind of missing from the screenslaver. And that's because you don't have that strong performance behind the character. It's behind a voice modulator. You don't know anything about it. And the reveal of who the screenslaver actually is comes way later in the film. And then they're throwing all these... I thought, I'll be just me, I thought all the new supers were just pointless.
I love Void.
Just
I love Void. I thought Void had
cute.
a cool.
She was.
I thought she had a cool, like, Doctor Strange kind of thing going on, and her power was really cool.
I like the animation,
effects.
like in the fight scene with her and Violet, with using the different portals and stuff. I liked that, but I think largely all the new supers that they threw into this film were a complete waste of time.
Yeah, they were a joke. I liked Void a whole lot, but aside from that, I thought they were kind of a joke
That's
too.
Because
they were just
Void was the only one they gave more than like 5 seconds of screen time to actually like have a character. Like, she kind of looks up to Elastigirl, so you know you could at least buy that dynamic of it. But
yeah, I mean, I agree with you that there was not a substantial kind of like, you know, a solid villain in this film, because by the time they revealed it, if you're like me, you already knew, and I know Caleb did because he guessed it as well. So most people are going to figure out that you only have a certain number of people to choose from. It's kind of a whodunit, right? But what I kind of looked at with the villain too, with the screenslaver, it was more of a social commentary, and maybe they were trying too hard. But I mean, screens are taking over our life, dude. I mean, we're sitting here on screens right now, and we're doing this. And
a film is a weird medium to make that point.
Yeah, and I agree, it is. But I looked at it as like, okay, they're trying to like say that, you know, screens and just the advancement of relying on them is the villain in our everyday lives. And should Pixar be making that argument? Probably not, especially during a movie, like you said, Caleb. But, you know, that was kind of like, it was kind of an existential villain.
You could take it even deeper than that. Like Caleb's point, a movie's a weird point to make that in, but this is also a computer animated film. So all of the animation for this is done by animators working on computers.
Exactly.
Man,
exactly.
If you Google Elastigirl, there's some interesting images.
Oh, shit. He's back to the ass, bro. Yeah. What about the did you guys see that they recently started adding a warning for the epileptic scene?
I saw the little paper posted.
That was really weird, bro. Like even before I knew they were going to add that for, you know, seizure prone individuals, I thought it was a weird scene because it was even kind of hard for me to watch. It was really just a lot coming at you at one time, and it was hard to follow who was winning the fight. You know, so to speak.
It was one more thing in this that was hard to watch.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, we already know Gerald's rating. We already know Gerald's rating. 7 out of 10.
Gerald's so mad.
7 out of 10.
As much as he's taken up the defensive position about this film, and he's trying his best to kind of battle it back. But Caleb, I'm going to swing it over to you. What would you throw on a rating for this film?
I mean, I enjoyed it. it's decent. It's a family film. You know, you kind of have to take that into consideration. I'd say a 6 out of 10. Like it's adequate. It's entertaining. It's not something that I think is going to be particularly memorable.
Yeah, no, this will not stand up with the original. Like, you know, everybody loves the original so much. It's so beloved, and I don't think that this one's really going to hold up there next to it at all. And
do you want Vanessa's hot take on this movie?
Oh, throw it at me.
Holly Hunter's voice is bad. She said that Elastigirl's voice is just annoying, and that was just like her sticking point with the movie, apparently.
In the first one as well?
Yeah. She just doesn't like her voice, I guess.
Burn. It's still one of my favorite voice castings that Craig T. Nelson is the voice of Mr. Incredible.
What's your score? What's your score, Nick? Are you going to give us your score?
I waver between a 6 and a 7 on it. I'm going to throw a 7 on it. I'm going to be generous. Just because I enjoyed enough about the movie. I did laugh at enough scenes, and I did have enough fun with the different scenes. But that does not mean that this film does not have some glaring issues. If I were doing this countdown style, this would probably be a score I would round up from like a 66 or a 67 or something like that. Like it's, you know, there's a lot of huge issues with this. The villain just does not congeal together well. The other supers are just a waste of time. And like I said, Jack is just a huge crutch that they try to use. The middle of this film, especially the middle act of this film, is dreadfully slow. Like once they get Elastigirl off and doing like the whole super thing, and the plot just kind of slowly simmers. It's like, okay.
That's what I was going to mention.
Let me help Dash with his math, actually. I'd rather do that right now.
Yeah, right. The sequel was about 15 minutes longer than the original, too, which I think hurt it. It was just under 2 hours. I want to say it was like an hour 58, which when you're taking little kids to see this, I mean, yeah, they enjoyed it, but could you imagine how much more they would enjoy it if it had been a little bit faster? Get out of there a little bit quicker. They get antsy, you know, and parents will know that, but until you get a certain age, maybe like 7 or 8 years old, you get a little antsy, you get a little bored with seeing the same thing. So I feel like maybe they could have trimmed around the fat a little bit.
Oh, they definitely could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely could have. So I want to throw some of Loisos's hot lines about this to you guys here. I want to throw some of Loisos's hot takes on this here. Here he goes. The villain's plan made no sense whatsoever. It was just a bunch of random shit thrown together. Pacing was awful. I actually agree with him there. I did not like the pacing of this film. Like I said, the middle act of this film was like way too much. Jack. Yes. He said Bob's resentment towards Helen doing the hero work is just kind of dropped. I mean, I like that he kind of adjusted back into his role as the stay-at-home dad. Like he kind of focused his energy on that. That I really didn't mind. I pushed him on the rating thing. He said maybe 6 out of 10, but that's pushing it. Don't even try to break down the logic of Screenslaver's evil plan. Is she controlling like a dozen people at a time? How does that work? And he made a really good point that I actually agreed with. Why didn't she just go public with her anti-super sentiment to begin with? The public already hates supers at the beginning of this movie, and they're already outlawed by the government. Why does she need to make supers legal again and then make them illegal again? Like, the whole world. Like,
why not just hypnotize people to say supers will always be illegal?
Yeah.
Why not just not help her brother?
Right? Yeah, she could have just come out and said, like, from the get-go, like, no, supers, my family died because of supers. They're the head of this big company. And, you know, like, all that it would have really taken would them to been, like, establish the brother-sister relationship between her and Winston more, but I don't feel like they did that enough. Right. Like, they could have shown more, like, of their backstory, like, he raised her and, like, he took care of her, so maybe she felt that obligation to him, and that's why she wouldn't do that. Whatever. I don't necessarily know, but the film doesn't explain that. And
that's a good point.
It just kind of leaves that up in the air. So, I agree with him 100% on that. Like, her plan makes absolutely no sense because the public already hates supers.
Yeah.
So you don't need to go through this whole convoluted bunch of nonsense whatever. It's just
I agree with that. It's like an elaborate hoax to get supers to be illegal when they already are. So I agree with that. And I never thought of that before. It's as
stupid and convoluted as the plot of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Spoiler alert for a spotlight that's coming very soon from the Epic Film Guys, where we talk about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Sorry. Not sorry. Why couldn't Voldemort just make the boot at the beginning, the fucking port key, and then teleport him to the fuck you, J.K. Rowling. Fuck you.
Hey, Nick, it's tough, and I'll ask you as an Epic Film guy, how do you see these movies? And we're talking about Incredibles tonight, but just in general, how do you see these movies that are coming off the heels of the original or built on characters that already exist as a work in itself, and not compare it to its original or to the line of movies that it's in? It's a really hard thing to do, and I think Loisos, like probably millions of people, fell victim to that, where the first one is an A+10, right? So
yeah, I would agree.
You're going to naturally compare it to what it's born from. How do you do that? Are you able to see a movie and be like, this is just this movie?
I won't say I don't do it in some cases. I know I do it in some cases. In this case, no, I don't have the kind of worship of the first film. Like, I like the first film, but like I said, I haven't seen it in a decade. So I don't hold it in that same kind of regard where I'm like, oh my God, this better be true to all that. Like, I want a movie to be a good movie. I want a movie's characters and everything to make sense. That's why, Caleb mentioned Star Wars earlier, but I love all the iterations of Star Wars. I love I like the originals. I like the prequels. I like the new stuff. Like, I like a good mix of it all, and I hate a good mix of all that stuff too. Like, there's bad stuff in all three of the different Star Wars timelines as well. Like, you have the whole reason why the backlash has been so strong against The Last Jedi is because people went into that film with an expectation and they didn't get it.
Right.
They did not get the film.
Star Wars fans are awful.
Right?
I loved it.
Star Wars fans are 100% awful.
I love the fact that The Last Jedi was not what they were expecting. That's what I loved about that movie.
Rian Johnson gave everybody the exact Star Wars movie that they wanted, and they hate him for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleepy Gary. Maybe we'll see
fucking
Chewbacca.
But no, I just think that's a tough thing, man. Sequels are always going to suffer from that living up to the original.
I think you always have to go into something with an open mind, because this is one thing that I try really hard not to do it. Like I said, I won't say I never do it, but there are certain circumstances where I think people try to take ownership of a thing. Like Star Wars. People try to take ownership of Star Wars. I own Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars fan, so I own it. So it has to deliver what I expect it to deliver. And they lash out against it when it doesn't do that. I don't do that. I don't really care as long as it's a good goddamn movie. I just want a film to be good. And I want that film to make sense in and of itself. Like, we won't get on a whole Star Wars thing, so I don't really delve into that. But
I started the Star Wars thing. I'm sorry,
son of a bitch. But like in this film, like, you've got these same characters, and I think again the voice work is fantastic, the animation's fantastic. All of the pieces to make this film great are here. But you have just a kind of shitty half-baked villain with a shitty half-baked plot, and as much as Jack is adorable and funny, you just constantly go back to the well of, well, we don't have anything else for this film to do, so let's just see Jack being funny again. Like, eventually it gets old, like, and you need to deliver us like an actual good film, and I think that the film doesn't do that. I really think it misses a beat. And, but then again, like I said, people have to not take ownership of this shit. You don't own it. You don't own Star Wars. You don't own whatever thing you love the most. You don't own it. You might love it. You might be a great fan of it, but you don't own it. And the only thing that you can do is, trust in the creatives that have control of it to deliver you something that you enjoy as much as you did the first time around or with the first installment or whatever. And
so go play KOTOR again and shut up.
Yeah, right. The Force Awakens is still the worst of the new Star Wars movies. Fuck everybody.
Come on.
Incorrect.
Come on, bro.
There you go. So, around the horn, 667. So, light. Gerald probably heavily recommending. Incredibles 2. Loisos definitely not recommending Incredibles 2. And Justin, I don't know how Justin felt about the film. I don't even know if he has seen it yet because, of course, he is in LBI. We're going to run into another quick break here. When we come back, we got a very quick edition of Epic Previews before we roll out the show. We'll be right back. This week in Epic Film History.
Something in my fucking eye is bugging the fuck out of me.
Make sure to put that in the outtake segment. I'm going to stick something in your eye that... Nick, I'm going to stick something in your eye that might hurt even worse than a bug. It's like a big... Well, I don't know how long you'd consider it. I've never measured it, I don't think. But it sticks in an eyeball and it squirts something in there. It'll make it even worse, more sticky, and you won't be able to see anything for like a week.
You're not supposed to stick the Visine bottle in your eye. You're just supposed to put it outside and squish it.
You like squishing other things like a very rubbery and soft pee-pee to make it nice and hard. It's like it's squirting your eye.
Why is it rubbery?
Well, I don't know. Maybe sometimes like you beat it so hard and like rub it so much that it kind of feels like, you know, like a dog toy, like a rubber piece of, I don't know, like a rubber wiener. A rubber hot dog.
Like a fucking dog toy.
What I'm drinking, Nick, is the lime summer ale that you brewed, you created, you made with your own two hands. And I'm drinking it out of this bottle. Hey, Benny, it's your Uncle Bingo.
Time to binge.
All right, so here goes. Let's taste this. You said this thing tasted like toast, right?
It tastes like fucking toast. I'm not kidding.
But is it toast with jam, toast with peanut butter, just plain burnt toast? Give me an idea before I say
just like buttered. I would say buttered toast.
Buttered toast,
but not good butter like Country Crock or something like 48% vegetable oil.
Wow, holy shit, dude! It legit. I feel like it tastes like toast with like jelly on it from Denny's or something, like a fucking raspberry jam or jelly on some not burnt toast, but like
you definitely
soggy.
Get the toast flavor, right?
I can smell it too. That's so fucking weird.
It is, isn't it?
A beer that smells and tastes a little. It's for real, dude.
It's just supposed to be a lime citrusy summer ale, and it tastes like fucking toast. I have no idea where that beer went wrong.
Well, you know, I don't know any of the stats because you don't either, so I can't tell our listeners like I normally do how many IBUs it has, what percentage it is.
It tastes like fucking toast, Caleb.
If you send me a better Charles Bronson clip than last week's, that fucking clip was terrible. That was so dumb. You gonna eat that sausage? That's so fucking stupid. Like, I get that a lot of his movies are like B-movie type.
The problem is there's great lines, but I can't find them on YouTube. I have to go on and rip them myself if I'm going to do it.
Listen, damn it, we're gonna have to start shifting to something else if we can't find better Bronson clips. Like, then you gonna eat that sausage? Jesus Christ! Like, I figured like it would at least be like Bronson like getting up and like grabbing the guy's tray and then beating him to death with it or something. And I was like, what the fuck? That's all he says. He just sits there and he's like, if you can have it, no one can, huh? I'm like, what the fuck?
That's the
like,
point.
I'm watching it. I'm like, Justin's scraping the bottom of the fucking barrel on Bronson clips with this one.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got a quick edition of Epic Previews.
In the world of Endicott, New York, and Herndon, Virginia, two epic film guys dissect the latest movie trailers in a segment we like to call Epic Previews.
Again, Justin and the sauce are not here tonight, but apparently they left a horror aficionado in their stead, in Gerald, who decided he wanted to check out the trailer for The Nun, which is a prequel to the Conjuring films, wherein you get to see a spooky, scary nun.
Yeah.
Gerald, you're the one that wanted to watch this trailer, so...
I know you're not really big into horror, and I know Justin is, of course, but have you ever seen the Conjuring films?
Nope.
Either of you? Caleb?
Fuck. That's like generic horror movie title number 37.
Okay.
So like, I don't know if I have an honest question for that.
I sucked a dick last night.
I think I've seen the first one.
Well, James Wan is a fucking master, a horror master, and he wrote the story for this one. He didn't direct this one, unlike Insidious and the Conjuring films, but he was involved. And I'll just tell you that the first time I saw The Conjuring, and the nun, the quote-unquote nun that they're focusing on in this film, is much more prominent in The Conjuring 2. However, there is an appearance in the original Conjuring, and the nun is fucking freaky, guys. She fucking scares me. And she was a very, very prominent figure in The Conjuring 2, and any horror fan will know that her presence in that film was always very ominous and very scary, and to see her backstory, I think, is going to be interesting, and I hope that they keep it in the realm of kind of terror that she was when she was on camera in the Conjuring films.
I had a series of visions when I was younger. And after each one ended, the same thought would be stuck in my head.
What did you see?
I saw a nun. Word of my visions reached the church, and I was asked to accompany a priest to an abbey in Romania.
The Abbey has a long history.
Valak.
Not all good.
What?
Dale. Callahan's here.
She was just always this kind of, you didn't know anything about her. She was just really creepy, kind of lurking in the shadows. It would be the equivalent of just seeing just kind of this figure in a film that you don't know anything about, and then being able to rewind to kind of learn where this character comes from. And in watching the trailer, you can see they're kind of taking a step back to kind of tell us where this nun came from and why she haunts the kids in the Conjuring films. So I think it could be good. The nun really scares me. If you like being scared in the movies and white-faced nuns scare you, then this might be for you, bro. It's going to come out in September, so it's going to be right in the fall, right leading up to Halloween. So I'm excited about it because James Wan's involved, and because, like I said, the nun character always kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I'm excited to see her backstory.
Fuck you and your jump scare movie trailer.
There is a jump scare in it. That's right.
I have not. Loisos, I mentioned this last week on the show when they reviewed Hereditary, but Loisos called The Conjuring 2, quote, a perfect movie, unquote.
Oh, it was fucking great.
When he reviewed it, he gave it a 10 out of 10 as well.
Really? Did he talk about the nun?
Right up there with The Incredibles.
Right up there with The Incredibles, yeah. Loisos absolutely loves The Conjuring 2. I don't know how he feels about the first one.
Did he mention the nun specifically or no? The nun character?
Well, yeah, they definitely talked about the nun. Whenever they reviewed it, they talked about the nun and everything like that. So, I mean, I have no attachment to this franchise whatsoever. The main takeaway that I have from this trailer is that I was like, is that Hogwarts? Like the castle? Like there's an establishing shot of the castle. I was like, is this Hogwarts? Is this a Harry Potter spinoff? Why is there a nun in Harry Potter? Is the nun a muggle? Or does she have magic powers? Is she a mudblood? Would
you know what might be cool for you
nun?
guys, for you and Caleb both, Nick? What might be cool is now you can watch the nun, okay? And then you'll be starting at the beginning. So you can watch the nun, then you can watch both Conjurings, and then you can watch Annabelle, and you'll see the whole series in succession. So you actually have a leg up now.
You know what's a lot scarier than ghost nuns? The fact that all around the world, the Catholic Church is covering up child molestations.
That's the real horror movie here. You're right.
I didn't know where that was going for a moment, but I was like, is he going to be like, all around the world, statues crumble for me?
Who knows how long I've loved you?
It's certainly an atmospheric looking trailer, but I mean, whenever I watch horror trailers, I just kind of like, I don't know. I kind of just watch them with like just a glazed over expression in my eyes because horror films just do not do anything for me. I am, however, intrigued. I do want to catch Hereditary if I can. Especially I listened to our good friends Paul and Wayne review it today, and not so much Paul, because I know Paul loves his horror movies, but for Wayne to come out of a horror movie saying it's a good movie, I was like, Okay, I might actually have to check that out because Wayne is very much kind of on my plateau when it comes to horror movies. I mean, there are a few exceptions for me. Like Caleb said, The Thing, I fucking love The Thing. The Thing's a masterpiece. Fucking great film. And there are a few other films like that are definitely horror films that are amazing. But by and large, horror movies to me are just like...
See, I like horror movies, but I tend to like creature feature type horror movies, like stuff like The Exorcist and like things in that vein where it's like playing on religious tropes I don't really get into because like ghosts and like demons and stuff, I don't think that stuff exists, so it doesn't really hold any sway over me, I guess. I don't know. The exception to that is Insidious. Like, I really got into that series.
Well, that was James Wan, and James Wan is The Conjuring as well. And like I said, he wrote the story for this Nun film.
If I happen to catch this, like, I'm sure I would get into it. I just, like, this isn't something that I would actively seek out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm right there on the same page with you. And that's it may be a great film. It may be. And even, like, just horror's not my bag. Like, I watch horror movies and it's not a cinematic experience I enjoy, especially because in Loisos and Justin and even Paul and Wayne and you know, other peers that I have, they get to go to the movies for free all the time. I have to pay every time I go to the fucking movies. So my movie ticket buying dollar is like stretched only so far, and I have to kind of discern between the films that I'm going to see. So I have to unfortunately like pick and choose sometimes what I get to see. Like I said, I would like to see Hereditary. I don't necessarily know that I'll catch it in theaters. This looks interesting to me. Like I said, but Loisos was like, it's a perfect horror movie. When they reviewed The Conjuring 2 last year, I was just like, okay.
Yeah, I'm prone to The Conjuring 1, but the main like kind of factor is the nun, and she's very prominent in Conjuring 2. To say that she's part of the storyline, where in the first one is just kind of a lurking in the shadows type deal, just kind of a scare factor.
Yeah.
So if that scared you, then the nun is probably going to intrigue you to want to see what her backstory was.
Yeah, horror movies never scare me. They always, like, jump scares will startle me, but I don't ever get like afraid when I watch it. I'm kind of like Caleb in that regard. Like I watch them with kind of a detachment because I'm just like, I know it's not real, so I just don't have like that issue of like,
man, you know what's a 10 out of 10 horror movie? A Quiet Place.
It was good.
And if you say, why didn't they just move to the waterfall, I'll fucking kill you.
I've heard someone say that. Who was it?
Yeah, I know exactly who it was. I loved that movie too. I still gave that movie an 8 out of 10. I still really, really loved that movie, but Jesus Christ, don't have a scene in it where they go to a waterfall.
So there's one thing in life that truly terrifies me that I'm actually really afraid of, and that's falling into a grain silo and like getting sucked under and like dying in it. And then that, like, spoilers, that kind of happens in the movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like starting to have a panic attack.
It was well shot too. It was a really well shot scene. John Krasinski did a fucking great job with that film.
Great movie.
Really, really great fucking job.
Great movie.
I don't have a fucking
Good job,
blue
Helper.
waffle.
What the? I don't ever get a chance to play that sound clip because it makes no sense to me. I'm like, well, Caleb's here. I guess I can play it now.
I just wanted to say, Nick, if you have an opportunity, see Hereditary in a theater full of people, bro. It's an experience, man. And
I mean, I'll probably catch it on like if I do watch it, like I'm thinking about maybe going to catch it tomorrow because movie tickets are only like $5 at AMC.
Yeah,
so
people that have seen it,
there will
like
be no
Justin
one
and
there.
Loy and others, they'll get what I'm saying. But just to be surrounded by people, to hear that kind of collective gasp, I mean, it's a cinematic thing, man. And just it's one of those movies, kind of like A Quiet Place too, to be honest. I mean, Quiet Place is a great film that you really need to see in theaters with a group of people. I think Hereditary is right up there.
You want to know what the best part about watching A Quiet Place in the theater was? It was a film, because there's no talking and there's not a lot of music in the film. It's very legitimately quiet. So no one in the theater said a fucking word the entire runtime.
That was the best part. That's the true genius of that movie.
Exactly.
It was a silent film.
Perfect.
It's the only movie that got everybody in the theater to shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
for once.
Normally you watch a movie and there's legitimately everybody and their mother. Somebody's narrating it to somebody else because somebody's like asking questions about a movie that the person they're asking them to hasn't seen yet and can't possibly know. Who's that person? What is that person doing? Go fuck yourself. But in A Quiet Place, that was the great part of that cinematic experience because it was so silent. You only could get the visual experience of it. You couldn't just like play on your phone and just listen to it because you weren't going to get anything out of it. Mm-hmm. That was really, really great. It was one of those really amazing cinematic experience because you legitimately could hear a pin drop in that fucking theater outside of like, you know, like whatever little gestures they were making on screen. Mm-hmm. It was really, really cool. Oh, man. Thank you guys. I got to thank you guys for subbing in for Justin here. I put the word out. And Caleb obviously is one of my best friends. I absolutely love Caleb. And when he was like, yeah, I'll do it, I was like, hell yeah, Caleb's got to get in here. And then Gerald, we've been wanting to get you on the show for the longest time. Again, Justin and I have both been on your show. So it was really, and the sauce, as a matter of fact, the sauce as well.
That's right, yeah.
So, you know, it really, really wonderful to get you in here. So I want to start over with Caleb, as if our audience doesn't already know. Where can they find you in the wide, wide world of podcasting?
You can find me on the Netflix and Swill podcast and the Loot Quest RPG podcast.
God, Loot Quest is so much fun. If you guys are not listening to Loot Quest, if you like role-playing and you like role-playing podcasts, listen to Loot Quest. What Shampoo does with that show, and I've recorded a few episodes with you guys now playing non-player characters. It's amazing to me that he manages to get those episodes as tight as he does. There is a lot of prattle, there is a lot of just miscellaneous whatever, and he manages to cut it into something that flows extremely well. I
think the
really
trick is that he
enough.
just cuts out all of Dave's dialogue.
I never laughed harder than I did when it was Dave. Like literally, he
off in the background.
Yeah, he just put his volume down and just had him in the background winning at gambling while like the main plot was going on. And like all of a sudden, in the middle of fucking, you're having a discussion with Shampoo about something, and fucking all of a sudden, Dave's like, "I'm gonna buy that fucking swoop bike." Whoa, like what the?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a wild show. It's mildly entertaining, but overflowing with sophomore crass humor. 3 stars out of 5.
It really, really is. Dave, speaking of which, Super Brother Dave joined myself, and we were on with Sam from Movie Reviews and 20 Qs, and we were also on with Mike out of the Bad Reception podcast over on the So I Married a Movie Geek for the 2000s fantasy movie draft, 2000 action movies. So action movies from 2000 to 2009. It was really, really, really fun. And Dave and I both discovered our mutual passion for Roland Emmerich's The Patriot. So look for a spotlight or something based on that coming very, very soon. Gerald, and I know you announced it on the live stream for The Cure, you've got a new show kind of simmering on the back burner right now that you're still developing, and we're waiting eagerly for the premiere.
Yeah.
But please tell us, our audience, where they can find you on the interwebs.
Well, stay tuned, man. Thanks for having me, Nick. You know I love you. I love Justin and EFG. So it was a lot of fun to be here, man. Talk about anything I can with you guys. And Caleb, you know I love you too, brother. You can find us really easily. Just go to Blazing Caribou Studios. It's just blazingcariboustudios.com. That's the network we're in. There's a lot of great shows there, and you can find 2 Ps on a podcast there, which is my show. You know, me and my buddy Andy are kind of on hiatus right now, but we try to get together at least once a month to rap about current events and pop culture. That's our main show. And then Nick and Caleb, as you guys know, we do a fun kind of top 5 kind of side show, which is going to hopefully eventually spin off into what you're talking about later this year, where we'll do just a fun top 5 podcast, and there'll be a new show every week with great guests and different topics, most of which will be surrounded around music, but you never know, movies might creep in there too.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Yeah. So stay tuned, brother, but thanks for having me again. But yeah, you can just find us on Blazing Caribou Studios, and then you can also follow us on Twitter. It's at 2 Ps on a pod, and that's TWO spelled out.
All right. Well, thank you both again. I really, really appreciate you joining me in Justin's absence. Of course, Justin, what do you have to say for yourself for not being on the show tonight?
I sucked a dick last night.
Yeah, somehow I knew that's what he was going to say. I really, really appreciate you guys filling in. It's just wonderful. I always, like I said, I'll take any opportunity I can get to get Caleb on a mic, just because he's amazing. And Gerald, I love you. I'm a huge, huge fan of yours as well. So it's really, really great to have you in here.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
I'm not done sucking dick yet, Caleb.
What would Emily have to say about that?
I sucked a dick last night.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That's still my favorite one. That's still my favorite
one. How is that not your ringtone yet?
Oh my god, I should start selling that as like an Epic Film Guys ringtone. Emily saying I sucked a dick last night. Oh my god. But of course you can find us at epicfilmguys.com. This July, the Restaurant Podcast, my little side project that I do where I talk about food, is going to be part of the 2 Pods a Day initiative over on Twitter. Go to hashtag 2 Pods a Day. 2 indie podcasts every day, all month long, just kind of introducing you to new indie shows that you may not be aware of. Super thrilled that Restaurant's going to be taking a part of that. So listen more, listen indie. Thank you very much, Josh, for including me in the campaign. It's going to be really, really fun, and hopefully some very, very well-deserved and hopefully well-needed exposure for Restaurant. But meantime, if you like the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts, throw us that beautiful, coveted, wonderful 1-star review. I mean, 5-star review, whatever. If you want to,
3 stars out of 5.
3 stars out of 5. Way too many mentions of penises.
Crass and sophomoric.
Yeah. What our rating would be, like, we're way more like crass and sophomoric than even Loot Quest is probably on this show. So I don't even know. I want that reviewer to come and listen to our show. Oh my Lord. So thank you very, very much, everybody out there, for listening. Next week on the show, Jurassic World.
Dodson, we've got Dodson here.
I wish we were talking about the original Jurassic Park again. We're also, at some point, going to have to record a mini-sode where we review all of the Jurassic sequels leading up to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Again, that's going to be next week's show. Justin will definitely be back for that. Justin will love the film. I am sure that I will give it probably a 6 out of 10 because it'll be another probably dumb, stupid piece of shit filled with giant dinosaur-sized fucking plot holes just like Jurassic World. And I hope, please just don't let it be as bad as Jurassic Park 3. That's all I ask.
Can I come on when you review like all the previous ones in the series and accidentally talk about all of the Land Before Time movies?
Oh my god. Thank you all so very, very much for listening. I love each and every one of you. Thank you all for just making the Epic Film Guys what it is. We're barreling down on 3 years as the Epic Film Guys podcast. Episode 150 is just a couple of episodes away. And we could not have done it without all of your amazing, amazing support. So thank you all very, very much for listening. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next Tuesday at the movies.